I never really know exactly how to start off my podcast. I kind of just wing it because my first two episodes that I recorded, I always struggle for that intro. And now I'm going to just wing it whenever I start a new episode. But with that being said, welcome to episode 3 of the Play&Talk podcast. I am your host, King Cubics, and this is episode 3. I know it's been a while. I want to say it's been like 2 months. I think 2 months since the last episodes. And I do want to apologize for that. Stuff just happens. And it's not that I didn't have like any ideas to talk about. I just wasn't active when it came to making the podcast shows, but that's going to change because I want to get right back into it, because I've been actually focusing hard this year about trying to get back into college, and I'm focusing on my career by doing this. So I am going to do more episodes whenever I can. It's just going to take me a while to get back into it. With that being said, today's topic, it's going to be about Bioshock, actually, and its inspirations of the game. I guess I should explain the gameplay right now. This is Bioshock, of course, obviously, if you haven't peeked the title. But I am heading towards Neptune Bounty in this episode, so I'm commentating on through this gameplay of Bioshock. You're going to be hearing me saying Bioshock a lot because it's my favorite game, and I honestly was going to originally wait until after maybe the final playthrough of this game to talk about this, but I think now is a better time to do it because Tomahawk is coming out on Monday, this upcoming Monday, and I am going to play through that for you guys. I wanted to, I didn't realize how close the date was, but I kind of was like, you know what? I was going to wait for the last episode, but now is a better time to do it because not just that game is coming out that I'm super excited for and super excited to play it. They came out with this brand new game called Judas, and I really hope I said that right. It's either Judas or Judas. I can't wait for that game to come out because it's the creators of Bioshock, and it is so good to see them using the exact formula of Bioshock in this game. Like, I absolutely love this game. Like, I love the mechanics, I love the weapons, I love the story of this game. Like, I played through this game so many times, and each time I play it, I always kind of learn something new. And it is one of those things where if you're so invested into something, you kind of want to just go along for the ride. And I was you kind of find out new lore every time you play, because when you're playing through a game, you kind of just play through it. You're not really too focusing on the story. I mean, where you kind of are, depending on how you play your games. I invested in the story and the gameplay, and normally for Bioshock, so much is happening, and you kind of just dive into it. So right now, this gameplay is the remastered. It is the collection of the Bioshock. So, and I'm playing it on the PS5, so it makes the game even better. 60 frames, it runs smooth, and that is why I decided to play over it, because it was kind of the perfect thing to record it while I talk to you guys. But yeah, I enjoy this because of like the weapons you use and the plasma that you get. The plasma is really what makes the game. Honestly, you can do so much stuff here, and it is, it's funny that it's classified as a survival horror game. It is, because there's some moments where it can be scary, but it's not. I think it's absolutely hilarious to me because of what you can do and how you can abuse some of your plasmas against the enemies. It's honestly the perfect game to pick up. And with this new collection, they added the new game plus for the first game, and like the new game plus, it's kind of currently what I'm playing on, because I have all the weapons. And I'm also, you're going to see it later on throughout the gameplay, they added the survival difficulty, which I absolutely love. It's a bit of a, it's like the perfect challenge to put on the game. And I think they did a fantastic job adding that little extra hard difficulty. I'm playing it on hard right now, but later on I'm going to switch it into survival, because I think it's something that I wanted to add it on, just to add a little bit more combat, a little more gameplay, a little bit more stuff to show you. But I'm getting a little bit off topic. Anyway, Bioshock. Let's talk about it. So, if you haven't know, the first game anyway, is based on this underwater city called Rapture. Not Atlanta. Rapture. And like the minute you think about that, you think of how cool it is to live underwater and whatnot. And like the fact that it puts so much detail into make this city, it's just absolutely breathtaking. And I only say that because like right now in the first game, it's kind of all in ruin. Like, a disaster happened. Like I said, there's so much lore going on when it comes to Bioshock. There's so many things that they added into the series. Like the first game is honestly what sets it off, because you're kind of starting in the middle of it. Now I played through. There's 3 main games in total. The first one and then the second one, I played. I liked it too. Not nearly as fun as the first one, but it's still good. Don't get me wrong. I would definitely play that over as well. But I played the first one so many times more than I played at the second game. And the second game is the sequel. It takes I want to say 10 years. I'm trying to go at the best of my knowledge. I think it's 10 years after the first game, because there's still some people down here like that still live in Rapture. And one of the philosophies of the place is once you live in Rapture, you can't leave. And that's what makes it a kind of big deal. The one thing I had to do was like I had to do my own little research about the game. Not really a lot of things to look up, because the audio recordings that they leave behind is honestly what gives you an idea of what happened during those events of the certain games, which I do enjoy. Like I usually have to re-listen to some of the audio clips, because it does tell a little bit of the background story of what happened during like the time. And I have this thing where I always play this game during the winter time, close to New Year's, because The whole disaster thing happened on New Year's, is what I've learned. I mean, it's also one of the first audio clips you look after. Those audio clips definitely tell a message or a story behind it. And what makes it even more interesting is that I love this game so much that there is a whole book to tell you the beginning of Bioshock. So it's like there's this game, and then there's the games, and then this person made an entire like origin story of Rapture and the whole thing of like what all went down. So you have certain characters who you see in here with the audio clips that play a role, and then you have other characters that like they're minor, but some of them, like some of the audio clips you find, it tells the origin story of that, and then like they did so well that it put it all together that it just made this series, like it ties it so well. Like the fact that the author took so much time to invest into the story of this game, and then make it a little bit of his own, but at the same time follow up the story that goes on with the next one. And that's why I like the first game so much, because between the book that I've read and the first game, between those two, it's like the best storytelling that I would replay no problem. I finished that book last year, actually. It was one of the first few books I wanted to read, because it was something that, my love for Bioshock made me wanted to, look through all that, and I've learned so much from certain characters. I was kind of sitting there like, oh, you know what, that makes sense, and I'm like, sitting there going, I see, you kind of sit there and sit back and you're like, oh, okay, I see his point why he wanted to make Rapture in the first place, because this whole thing, it takes place, I think, during the World War II period, and Andrew Ryan, he wanted to find a better place. He wanted to create a better place, like out away from this war. Like he was, in a way, you kind of could see that he was trying to help people, but it sort of turned into something else. Nothing sinister, but it's like, hey, he wanted to keep this place, a secret. Like it's more of a, once you choose to come to Rapture, there's no leaving. You're stuck down here. Like you can't go back to the surface. Like your new life is here now. Most people did not understand that in the book. Like following up the prequel, like no one didn't really. Everybody thought like this was, it was amazing to live down here. It was amazing to visit here. They thought it was like an attraction for people to be here, and they only discovered that it was not what the main man had in mind. And with that being said, you also kind of learn about, like, you learn the full extent, like the full intentions of certain people. Like you learn the full intentions of Fontaine. Fontaine is spoiler, but he's basically the main villain in the first game, and everybody was like, oh, well, he's dead. Well, you find out that he was not dead this entire time. And then in the book, he was I think he was one of the fishermen who wanted power, who wanted to try to overthrow Ryan in his own way. So he was kind of working a little bit behind the scenes that not a lot of people knew about. So it was kind of a two-operation thing of what's going on. Then you learn the backstories of the little sisters, and you learn, like I said, minor characters. It's weird how they make the minor characters in the series a little bit more important, because it tells you like what some of the tragedies that happen to certain people, and you're kind of like, oh man, that happened to them, and it's unfortunate that happened to them. So whenever I did play the first game, I got the bad ending like one time, and it was because not that I was curious about it. It was because I was like, I kind of wanted this certain ability, but I didn't have enough Adam to get it. So I was like, you know what? For just this one time, I will choose the darker path. Like, I didn't harvest all the little sisters. I only did like a couple of times, but just doing it that one time, you've already got the bad ending. Like, and ever since then, every time I replay this game, I never did the bad ending ever again. From there and from here on out, and then it's for a good reason. Especially the collection, it gives you that new game plus. So now you can actually get almost everything in this game, and it's kind of worth it to try out new things. I still stick with my usual stuff because I simply just, some of the plasmas you get in here, it's like not super useful. Like, here's an example. There's this one ability you get that can you can distract the security cameras and the security turrets and stuff. Well, you find out that one is actually kind of useless to use, because there is, once you research certain enemies, you can automatically hack it. And I'm just like, well, what is the whole point of the plasma if I can just do this? It's just a little bit of balance. But a little bit back to the series. So the first game and the book, they go together. Like, it's something I highly recommend you reading. I'll even find a link for you guys, and I'll put it in the description, so that way you can order the book yourself and then you can read it. I recommend, if you're a Bioshock fan, 100% you read the book. If you're really curious about like what happened at the beginning, then this is the book, the way to go. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was a nice little read, a nice little piece of information to learn about the lore, and to learn about a few characters too, because not a lot of people, they may seem like they're the bad person, but they're not. And that's what I like about the book and the first game. Those two, they go together. Now the other two, let's go ahead and talk about Bioshock 2 and then Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock 2, I don't play it as much like I do in the first game, so I don't know fully everything that goes on. I mean, like, I know what happened and all. Like, you play as Big Daddy, who basically lost their little sister that they're connected to, and you're basically trying to reunite with that same little sister you're tied to. And that same little girl that you were with, I don't think she was a little sister. She might have been. Like I said, I'm going off what I remember. But she grew up, and she has the other little sisters and everything, and she can see what you're doing. So that game, like I said, like, that game has two endings, and it's a good and a bad, and it does involve with you either absorbing little sisters or saving them. And of course, being me, I saved them, which it's actually more worthwhile saving them in the second game more than the first. So Yeah, you definitely want to save the Little Sisters in the second game because it is so much worth it in that one. But the second game, there's a little bit bigger, a little bit more exploration. Actually, there's not a lot of exploration. You kind of have to explore that entire area before you move on to the next because you can't go back. And there's a reason why you can't go back because stuff goes down towards the end, and I won't. If you haven't really fully played Bioshock, I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you. So it's more of a you can wait and see what goes on, but it's something that you won't be needing to go back because it won't let you. That's just how the game works. I thought that this entire time there's a person who's going to be with you all the way through. At one point, I was like, man, this is going to be one of those games where he's going to betray me. Bioshock, it does do that. And then the series makes you kind of want to think that, oh yeah, this person's gonna stab me in the back. Like I said, good storytelling in a way. You just kind of based on your choices of Bioshock 2 really affects the way how the story is going to shape up. And I've never really got the bad ending for Bioshock 2 because I've always was that person to where I'll keep them all alive. I mean, I can't really say they had when it comes to certain abilities. I think Bioshock 2 had a little bit more, but they're about the same. The guns in the first game were a little bit better, that's for sure. I didn't really like the second, I didn't really like all the weapons in the second game. I mean, they had some useful weapons, like the auto hack that you get to do. That was easier to obtain to hack stuff, so the mechanics in the second one, I mean, they're about the same, but it's one to me is still the superior one. Although they did a really good job when it came to tying that story to the first game. Although it feels like that should have been the end of it. they went ahead and made Bioshock Infinite. So Bioshock Infinite was a game where I could never finish it. Not because it was bad or anything. Bioshock Infinite, I finally finished that, played it so many times, but I could never finish the game. But when I got the Bioshock Collection, I finally sat down and said, okay, I got all the DLC. I got the collection gives you everything. I got the DLC. I got all the games. I'm going to finish Bioshock Infinite. And I almost didn't finish that. I almost didn't. But I sucked it up. And I wound up doing it. So that was that. Anyway, so Bioshock Infinite. It's an okay Bioshock game. That was probably one of the games in the series where I probably wouldn't replay it again. It wasn't supposed to connect, and that's what they were going for. It was that series that it wasn't supposed to connect with any of the two. And that's what I've been told before I got the chance to actually finish it. But when if it's Bioshock, it's something that I have to do. Who knows? I actually might replay it just because. But it is something else. It's definitely not. It has somewhat of the same mechanics, but it's one of those things where you wouldn't think it's a Bioshock game. You would think it's a random first-person shooter that gives you the abilities. Even the plasmas you get, they don't you don't use them a lot. Like I never really used the plasmas in that third game because they just weren't that good. Like none of the plasmas you use didn't really help as much. I mean, and not only that, but at least when it came to the first and second game, it the gauge on the very top left corner of the screen gave you a chance to use them multiple times. With this one, depending on which one you're using, depletes your plasma so much, and you're just kind of like, man, I'm not even sure if that has replayability. I feel like it does. I don't remember because I only played it and I've only beaten it once. But part of me is like, I don't know if I want to replay this game. I mean, the story is interesting though, and I say that because once I finally did beat it, it's not supposed to connect to it, but you look at that ending, somehow they managed to connect it with the first game. And it's very weird because there's the one thing that they said was that it all started with the lighthouse. That lighthouse is what set up the record for the games to connect in a way. And what did they? No, I don't want to spoil it for those who didn't, play or beaten the game yet. And if you haven't beaten the game yet and you are like working on it, I understand. It took me a solid while to like sit back and be like, this isn't the same Bioshock I haven't played since the first two. And don't get me wrong, there's no hate towards Infinite. Like, Infinite's a great game. Like, I love Infinite. I will far say that I actually love the game. Like, I don't mind it at all. I mean, I kind of wish it was more connected to the first two games, but it's its own thing, and I a lot of people don't appreciate originality. It was trying to be its own thing, but it still had the mechanics of like any other Bioshock game would, and that's what I thoroughly enjoy when it comes to the series. Like, it tried to be something different, but at the same time it kind of kept the same formula, and that's what most certain games kind of lack nowadays. And Infinite's no better. Like, it does its own thing. But the DLC, Burial at Sea, that right there is connected to the previous games. So that actually what made me love the Infinite in a way. Well, more of its DLC, because it's part of the story. Even though the book doesn't mention that half, but it's connected with the games. So, Burial at Sea is the DLC for Bioshock Infinite, and it tells the story of the events before the first game. And it's also one of those things where you get to see the prime of Rapture before its downfall. So there is a lot going on. I mean, it's weird, but you get an Infinite and in the DLC, Burial at Sea, you get to see a little bit of what happened before everything went to Crazy Town. And it kind of threw me in a loop when I finally finished Burial at Sea, episode 1 and 2. You get to notice that so this whole thing happened because so and so was going on. Anyway, like episode 2 for Burial at Sea was the start of the downfall that was getting ready to happen. And then finally, once towards the end of it, they're like, what is the password for so and so, and then you're all kind of like, what password? Well, that actually explains it in this game. In the first, it's kind of like an all around the loop in a way. So I will let you guys know that once I finish talking this bit, how things are, I should know the timeline of myself for like what I played and read. I should know the full timeline for this. So let's go ahead and start with from the beginning to end. The timeline of Bioshock. It's oh man. So let's see. The book, if you want to go it that way. The book is what started the whole series. If you want to be technical, if you want to go for the full timeline, it starts with the book because it's the beginning and the building of Rapture, and it tells you exactly like the beginning of the stage, the middle of the stage, and then the beginning of the downfall. So you get to read the beginning part of the downfall before the revolution happened. So it starts off with the book. And I think towards the end of that book, you have the middle of it, which is Burial at Sea, episode 1. It's kind of like a little side story that goes on, I think. So it's Burial at Sea, episode 1. I feel like it. And then it moves on to Burial at Sea, episode 2. Yeah, I feel like Burial. I don't want to. There's a lot of jump loopholes in the timeline, but yeah, it should be Burial at Sea 1, and then Burial at Sea 2 after the book, and then it is. It shows like a flashback of Bioshock 2, but the main story starts with the first game. I'm trying my best not to be confusing, but yeah, it starts a flashback of episode 2 because there's some stuff going on there, and it was during the Prime. No, that's not right. No, the first game is after Burial at Sea 2 because that's when they were planning on using the events to start off the whole operation. Is what's the setting that's going on right now. So yeah, the first Bioshock is after Burial at Sea, episode 2, and then after that it is Bioshock 2, which I think is technically supposed to be the end of Rapture, quotation. It's supposed to be the end of Rapture. And then Bioshock Infinite doesn't really. There's really no connection to it. Like they want to, it's its own story. They threw some elements of the first game in there, but it is definitely its own story. So yeah, Bioshock 2 is basically where the story of Rapture ends. So yeah, that is my take on the entire series, plus the book. Like I said, I will leave that. I got it off Amazon, so I could try to put a link on it, see if you wanted to buy it off there, because I highly recommend the read. Now, the other part of the podcast, I also wanted to talk about certain games that are kind of inspired by the Bioshock series. Now, I already mentioned Judas is the same team that's going to be making that game, which I can't wait for more information for that. Really, really excited. I need more information. I've seen the clips for that, and You already know I'm going to be so on it. Can't wait to play the game. My thoughts, everything. It's going to be fun. But back to the topic at hand. The other games that are like have a very Bioshock feel to it. So we'll talk about the first one. And that first one, it's called Close to the Sun. I think it's by Storm in a Cup. That's what it said. That's the team that made Close to the Sun. So I saw this, right? I saw this. Don't even remember what year it came out, and I immediately was like, "Is this a new Bioshock game?" You know, because I'm already interested. It had the same atmosphere and everything that Bioshock would have had, and I had to immediately try to get information. So, Close to the Sun, you know, it's its own game. A lot of people called it the sister of Bioshock, even though it's not technically the same thing, but the format and the familiarity. I did not say that word right. They are so similar in a way that you could call it. I guess the sister of Bioshock is kind of the best way to describe it. You're in first person. You are defenseless, but you're focusing on this character named Rose, and you're trying to discover what happened with your sister. And you board this gigantic cruise ship called the Helios, and you know a lot of stuff is going on. You find out that this place is in ruin. It's under quarantine, and you're kind of just like, well, why is this place under quarantine? And then you find out that there are still some survivors on the ship, and there is some people escaping something. And this game had a really good story going on, which made me even more excited. However, I was upset that this game didn't get the recognition that it deserves, because it ended with the biggest cliffhanger ever. Like, yeah, man, I wish people would actually see how that game is, and I wish that same team would get back into it to at least give us a closure, because it didn't give us a closure. It gave us a cliffhanger. It ended with a cliffhanger, and it's like, I hate cliffhangers that I know that they're not going to finish the story out of, because it definitely raised like a spark. So the gameplay of it, you know, you're kind of wandering around. You're a journalist, and you're trying to find out what's happening while you're searching for your sister, right? And you kind of you're doing your own little investigation. You're kind of like finding some notes and everything, and you're trying to you're going about the cruise ship, searching for clues, searching for information, trying to navigate yourself on this giant cruise ship called the Helios. You know, and once you're doing that, you go from one chapter to the next, and there are threats in this game, so you do have to be careful, because like I said, you're defenseless. So judging how like the way you do things is how you'll be able to survive. I was going to play that again, actually, but I didn't get to finish it. I think I was going for a platinum on my PlayStation, and I didn't do it. And for some weird reason, that game wasn't made for to support the PS5 engine. I mean, like, you can play on it, but it started glitching out like crazy. So there were moments where it was just glitching, and I was like, good God, I might have to. It was doable. It finally stopped in certain spots, but it was one of those things where I'm like, am I going to have to replay plug in my PS4 and like do it. Luckily, I didn't have to do all that. But normally it would have been nice. However, yeah, the game never got finished when it came to finding out what happens next. I mean, I wish there was more to the story of it, but I think not a lot of people know about it, and it is kind of upsetting. But there's kind of a bit of a puzzle solving. There's a lot of puzzles you got to do in the game, but they're puzzles that like they're not super hard, but they're not super easy either. I mean, that's kind of what I like about it. It was one of those things where you can solve those puzzles, but it makes you want to solve them because you'll feel really good once you solve it. You're like, oh man, I'm actually doing an investigation right here. Like I'm over here, like writing stuff down, trying to figure out which is which and everything. And there's some voice acting in the game. There's some pretty good voice acting in there, and like I said, it's very heavily inspired by Bioshock. You can tell just by the way it all is. I mean, if you would have picked it up right on the spot right there, you would have been like, boom, this is Bioshock, but it's not Bioshock. It's completely different. And I think that inspiration to make a game like that, even though it's not the same thing, it's what's good. It definitely had some jump scares in there. Like there were some moments where I'm over here, because your character freaks out whenever she sees certain things, and like you over here are like, man, I'm defenseless, so I can't really do nothing about it, and I kind of just have to wait till it passes. And that's what's kind of the atmosphere is what it brings, is the fact that you're defenseless in the whole thing. Oh, man. I need to remember that I have to breathe when I do these podcasts. But this topic right here, I love the game so much that I just want to... I could talk about Bioshock for hours. But, that's Close to the Sun. If you haven't heard or played it, if you're looking for a good indie title to get by, I would highly recommend that one because it's really good to play it. It has a really good story, and sadly, the ending you'll definitely feel some type of way about it, unless they wind up bringing like something else out there. I don't know. If it's one of those things where it's like, if you need money, if you need donations, let us know. But don't quit on the project, because the project is just too good to quit it up. Well. Alright, so that's Close to the Sun. The next game that's coming out on Monday is Atomic Hawk. Oh, wow. Atomic Heart. I'm not even going to edit that out. So I'm just going to... I'm just going to leave that as it was. So Atomic Heart. That game. That game, I'm going to just call it the cousin of Bioshock. And I'm going to say it's like the cousin. It's the cousin of Bioshock and I guess Fallout? I don't know. It's kind of weird. So I was never really a huge fan of Fallout, but there was some weird stuff in that game that I've seen that it gives you like that Fallout vibe. I think it's because of the weirdness that's in there, but actually no. Not Fallout. Well, a little bit of Fallout, but you can definitely see there's some Infinite in there, some Bioshock Infinite in there, and it's heavily based because you can kind of do the same thing in a way. What Bioshock does, you have an ability on your left hand, and then you're using a gun on your right. So, I mean, but it looks pretty action paced. So it's gonna be pretty intense. So, yeah, like I said, full gameplay gonna be on that this upcoming Monday. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. You know, Atomic Hawk looked like it was something that I just said Atomic Hawk again. Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart. Need to remember, it's heart, not hawk. I don't know why I want to say hawk. It's when I first discovered that game, that was years ago. I don't remember when. I feel like I was in high school, to be honest with you. I was either in high school or I was like in the middle of college is when I discovered Atomic Heart, because I looked at it, and I think IGN at one point even said that it was like, hey, this is like Bioshock, and I'm already like, yeah, I'm ready to look up this information. There was maybe 3 video game clips of it, and I haven't heard from that team since. Like they vanished or something. I don't know what happened. I saw like maybe one new video from them like 2 years after that, and then they just vanished. So in my back of my head, I was kind of like, is this project abandoned? I really hope not, because that would suck. And then last year, all of a sudden, their game is almost done. They were working on this game for this entire time, and the minute I saw their latest trailer, not the latest one, but the one before, they had a release date. They were having a little release date, and I was like, oh, it's coming out soon? Am I actually going to get to play it? So I tried my best not to look at the games I want to play all the way through. But sometimes it can't be helped. I was like way too excited to figure out what they're going to do in this, and I'm excited to play on Monday. So all I saw was, it's weird. It's weird. It's you're shooting abilities on your left hand, using a gun on the other, and it's action packed, and it has a pretty good. I don't even know the story. I don't even care. I mean, I care, but like, I just honestly want to dive into the action. Because this game right here is something I've been looking forward to in a while. I was like, yes, I needed to more Bioshock in my life, and although it's not Bioshock, it's still something else. And then they brought up Judas, and I'm excited for that too. So yes, gameplay, and I'm gonna play it all the way through. So be on the lookout for Monday, because I am definitely going to be on it, depending on how, if life gets in the way. But it looks like we are getting close towards the end of this gameplay. It's almost towards the end of this, and I do once again want to apologize for the lack of uploading the podcast episodes. Like, I feel bad for myself that I haven't been doing that, but at the same time, I'm also kind of glad that I finally have that spark to get back into doing it again. I will admit that part of it is a bit, not laziness, just me recording the gameplay first. Because I haven't been in that mood to play it, and that's not because I don't like the game. It's because there were other games I was trying to play, and I just couldn't get to them. So Bioshock was still there on my mind, and I finally was like, let's go ahead and record this. Because I actually, sitting there, was like, yeah, I really want to play this game. And then that's when the spark kind of had my idea for this episode was the fact that I was like, yeah, this game's almost coming out. But it is getting towards the end of this gameplay. I'm so glad you guys came back to listen to the third episode. Don't know when the next episode is going to be, but be on the lookout. But in the meantime, I can't wait for you guys to watch some gameplay of Atomic Heart. I'm excited to play. Until next time, I'm your host, King Cubics. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Alright, you guys take care.